Hi everyone, I'm Zach. Welcome back to Watcher of Realms. Today we're looking at the new Immortal Codex boss. So the information for the new boss was released a few days ago. The first chance I've had to really sit down and look through it, so that we could go through it together, look at what's coming up, see if there's any new features, see what sort of gameplay is going to work, and if there's any champions that stand out as being particularly good champions for the type of content that's coming. So here's the new Immortal Codex boss. Good old Boreas there. Again, I think I said this previously, little bit of interesting timing considering the nerf on the Forerunner server. Maybe rubbing that in people's faces a bit by having him as the new boss, but that's their prerogative for how they want to release these, but maybe not the choice I'd have made. So the Arbiter of Frost, we'll read through this first and then we'll see what we can pick out. So the Arbiter of Frost has extremely high defense, magic resistance and damage reduction, but takes increased continuous damage. So with high defense and magic resistance, it's going to be really hard to build up the attack there to do damage to the boss in the traditional sense. Continuous damage, I assume that's any continuous damage skill, so that's your bleeds, your burns, and a couple of the others. Arbiter of Frost periodically generates cryo cores, which the commander must shatter in a given period of time. So that could potentially be similar to the shields that you get on some of the other bosses that come down hit by hit, or that could be damage similar to the shield. You have to do a certain amount of damage similar to the shield on the guild boss, or it could just be a by this point you have to delete after beating this cryo core. Deployed heroes who deal continuous damage to the Arbiter of Frost or his cryo cores will regain HP. So that to me jumps out as maybe healers won't really be necessary. As long as your heroes are doing the continuous damage, they will regain HP themselves. When the cryo cores are shattered, the Arbiter of Frost will enter a weakened state, taking further continuous damage. If cryo cores are left intact, they will continue to crystallize and deal heavy damage while also increasing the Arbiter of Frost attack, thereby posing a serious threat. So as with most of these bosses, their damage will increase over time, so you need to keep hitting their damage, hitting them and reducing the damage by getting rid of these cryo cores by the looks of things. So when facing the Arbiter of Frost, commanders need to be strategic, attacking the Arbiter and his cryo cores with single target continuous damage. By this token, heroes who deal strong single target continuous damage will have a significant upper hand in battle. And it does have some heroes on there for us. So Anai, Praetus, Alistair, Socradons, Lust and Nisalt. I mean, apart from the last two, that's a fairly restrictive list for the highly recommended. Also, I believe Lust will only do the burns as part of her bond skill with arrogance. I'll jump on and check that in a minute, but I think Lust may only do that with the bond skill. So if you have Lust but not arrogance, she might not actually be as useful. But we'll take a look. Nisalt does poison and burn, I believe. So for the free-to-players out there, or low spenders, or people that just don't have some of these other champions, Nisalt would probably be the one. Again, most of these champions have burns. Lycia has his own continuous damage, I believe. Sand erosion, I want to say. Again, we'll double check that afterwards. Bjorn Morrigan, Salazar, Orium again with the burns, Vladoff with the bleed. Bleed, I believe, does not stack. So the burn champions, you'll be able to lay down and get multiple hits of burn, but you can only have one instance of bleed. And I believe poison stacks as well. So yeah, so it's broke it down then by the burning, the poison. So you're sort of gonna want multiple burning heroes, multiple poison heroes. I don't think there's a lot of poison heroes you're going to want to bring maybe Nisalt in there as your poisoner, and she throws out the burns as well. You will only want one of the bleed heroes in terms of team composition. For me, that'll be Vladof, because that's the only one I've got on there, because I haven't fused Komodo yet and I haven't pulled any of the legendaries. Radiant Erosion for your arbiters there, again, you can't see a lot of people having them. And then these ones all have their own individual ones, so these will be good to bring because they should then stack separately. So overall looks good. Some interesting mechanics. I really like the way they bring out these Immortal Codex bosses, and whenever they release new ones they seem to have slightly different mechanics than some of the others. That's because we've had the Defender one on the last Immortal Codex that was different, where you needed the block to give the damage over time. I will just take a look. And so in terms of, for me, heroes wise, no Lust was on the list, but I'm pretty sure. So talent is Sinful Lash, which is 400% damage. Nothing there, nothing there. Stars Rage, nothing there. So yeah, so on the Bond skill, Lust does Burning. So if you, like me, you did the 250 for Lust and you've got Lust on your team, don't throw her into your team for the new Codex boss expecting her to do a lot of continuous damage, because she doesn't have that continuous damage without Arrogance. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Arrogance doesn't have any, does it? Oh yeah, no, Arrogance does have, that was it, on the ult. Arrogance has Burning. Will become permanent after being triggered 2 times, so Arrogance in there if it's going to be a long fight, which I'm presuming it will be. Arrogance may be a choice, obviously permanently fusible, so again for the free to players or the low spenders or the newer accounts, Arrogance may be an option for you. I think the biggest one that jumps out as me as an option for the free to play is Wrath. On his A3, most people should be, you get the A2 automatically as long as you've thrown in one of your early Awakening crystals into there. Wrath is definitely a good choice. Burning on the Heavy Blow. Heavy Blow being the ultimate. Then again, he's AoE. Take AoE damage from Heavy Blow, so will that still count? I think I saw him on the list. We'll go back and double check. I don't want to be giving you the wrong information. No, so Wrath. Oh yeah, Wrath is there on there for the burn on the A3, so that must work. Then, or they wouldn't put him on there. So my team is looking like it is pretty much going to be potentially Arrogance, depending on who else I have. I've got Lucia. Lucia has his Sand Erosion, 10% continuous magic damage per second. That's pretty good. Orim, who's a new pull for me, not really looked at him much yet, but does have the Burning. If he receives damage from Burning, and then Burning on 2 of his skills. And then Vladof. Vladof should be another one that is potentially a little bit more free to play friendly if you've been playing for any length of time. We did have the Vladof fusion not very long ago. And you've got the Laceration that does the bleed, and you've also got, if you have him A1, his basic does bleed as well. So for me, Vladof will definitely be going in as the bleed champion. What is it that has the vulnerability? I thought it had some increase. It does have some damage on there somewhere that I might be missing. The penetration increase. And then Nisalt. I think Nisalt is going to be a big one for most people. Nisalt is one actually that I am going to start upgrading ready, because Nisalt has the burning or poison with the A1 that increases the duration. Magic concentrate reaction between burning and poison and cause toxic fire, which is another damage. So it looks like Nisalt it's really good to see that they've released some content and that you're going to have a really good epic here for all that content, because she has some sort of bleed and burn on both of these. And I believe on the awakening, attack speed, 30% extra damage on the bleed and the burn, duration of the bleed and the burn, poison and the burn. I keep saying bleed and burn, ignore that, poison and burn. So yeah, that fantastic to see them using or creating content where we can get some use out of this epic. So yeah, you're free to players, Nisalt, potentially Wrath, Vladoff if you did the fusion, Arrogance again for the fusion, and then for your very free to play that aren't lucky enough to have some of those champions, your really early cukes and stuff like that for your poison. So that is the Immortal Codex new boss. Let me know if there's any strats you think are going to be good out there. How should we be building these champions? Is it going to be the standard? From reading that, with the high defense, magic resistance and damage reduction, I can't see that you're going to be needing to build a lot of attacks. So if my understanding is in the game, you build attack to a level to get over the defense to then do the damage. Sounds like to me they've raised that defense up, so it's going to be hard to reach that cap, so you really are going to be relying on that continuous damage. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of stats to be building here. Initially, first glance, I would say attack speed, because you want to be hitting those abilities that give the continuous damage as often as possible, and then survivability. Wait and see. Once that comes out, I will have a play around, see what's working, see which champions are working, certain builds, and I'll probably release another video then. But in the meantime, jump in the comments, let me know what you think of the mechanics, what champions do you have that you think are going to be particularly good, and anything else you think relevant to the new Immortal Codex boss. And yeah, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.